Bar 3, turning people away. The Funhouse at Mr. Small's, turning people away. People all across Millvale were being kicked out of venues, or actually, rather, stopped at the door this past Saturday because the Millvale Music Festival was that fucking good. An estimated 5,000 people came to this little borough of Millvale and rocked. It was fantastic. We had 16 venues, 120 bands, and not a single stage ran behind. And for all of the internet trolls out there, the few of you that you are, I dare you to come down to Millvale Studios at 220 North Avenue, and I'll kick your ass in person like I kicked your ass in life. Yeah, you could sit behind your keyboard and pretend to be a keyboard warrior, but in the grand scheme of things, your life is small, your contributions are meek, and your personalities are even meeker. No one cares. Everyone had a great time. It was fantastic. The buzz in Millvale, let's just say it's still buzzing. I'm still getting comments. I'm still getting messages, emails, non-stop, because this festival was insane. Not a single venue ran behind. I am Brian Crawford. This is my first time back in a little over a week here at the Millvale Studios, now that I am free from the Millvale Music Festival. And it's good. It's good to be back. Good to be back with energy and excitement after a huge event. Maybe the biggest event that Millvale has ever had. I don't know. It's possible. I know we have an awesome event, Millvale Days, and this is definitely a comparable event in size, and we were all over town. We had street performers. We had everything. It was insane. You're listening to the River's Edge Radio Network, one of the sponsors of the Millvale Music Festival. I'm Brian Crawford. I am the master of the Millvale Shore. Let no one doubt that. You can hit us up on Twitter at RiverTalkPGH, or you can call me right here on the phone, 412-407-2PGH. That's 412-407-2744. We got an interesting new segment starting today. It is, well, we'll get into it. There's a kind of a crisis that it wasn't directly related to the Millvale Music Festival, but there was a crisis here in Millvale, and I, your esteemed host, came to the rescue, and I got to change some things around to try to save the town. So we've got 3 stories coming up: the grab, the provocative poop protest, and the forceful porn. That's coming up in the middle of today's program. The event was kind of like the Twilight Zone in many ways. I happened to be in all of the right places at all of the right times. There were several situations that occurred that could have been a real killer, but I happen to always be in the right places at the right time. As you know, I am Pittsburgh's moral compass. I am your voice of reason among 3 rivers of chaos, and I made this shit run. Me and my awesome committee. So one story. This was great. I am literally just going from venue to venue, and I stop at Cousins, and they're having issues with one of the singer-songwriters who was trying to perform. The cables went bad, so I ran back and replaced the cables, but it happened to happen right as I was there. Again, that stage ended on time. The soundboard at Grist House, this was crazy. So Grist House had, I don't know, 700 people there. It was insane. It was packed. People all over the place, everywhere you could see. You had a hard time walking just in the main part, just in the parking lot, or what used to be the parking lot, because there were so many people. But the board that we had there was super high tech, and apparently it was a Wi-Fi board. And this Wi-Fi board, you used an iPad or like a smartphone, and you could actually adjust the levels right on your phone. Well, with like 600 people all on their phones using Wi-Fi, the board went dead. And of course it happened minutes before I arrived. So I ride on the bike, and here I am riding through town with a soundboard in the basket of my bike, trying to make it to Grist House. That act started 5 minutes late. The stage ended on time. Then I voyaged to Good Time Bar, which was our furthest out location. Awesome place. They have their own in-house sound. It was packed all day. I get there. I'm standing outside for a few minutes talking to the host. And then somebody comes up. Eris Paul, good friend of mine, great musician. You can hear him right here on the River's Edge Radio Network. And Eris says, hey, yeah, I'm playing in about 30 minutes. He looks at his clock. He says, about 30 minutes here at the Good Time Bar. And I'm thinking, Good Time Bar? No, you're at the Happy Day Lounge. He's like, that's not what somebody told me. He starts pulling up an email. I said, I know what happened. He's somebody I booked personally last minute because I don't think he applied, but I'm like, you're a good musician. We have spots to fill for singer-songwriters. We didn't have a lot of band spots. So I threw him in, and I just was on the go, and I must have texted the wrong bar, but I happened to be there on my bike. So I jump in his car, we hoof it down the Happy Day Lounge, and he gets there with time to spare. That's the kind of day we had at the Millvale Music Festival. Very few incidences, but when we did, I was there to save the day. So we've got Matt Shorraw, who is basically the mayor-elect. Not officially yet, but pretty much the mayor-elect.
Unofficially, yeah.
Unofficially, yes, of Monessen. We're going to be talking to him about his experience running a campaign. Is this your first campaign?
Yeah, it is.
It is his first campaign, and he won. So we're going to go more into that in a little bit. But after the break, we're going to talk about the local mayoral election here in the city of Pittsburgh. Well, local being right across the river from us here in Millvale. But we've got more stuff on that. We've got some results on that, some my interesting take, or at least I think it's interesting. Maybe you won't, but you will because it's me. So stick around after the break. We've got the mayoral election coverage, and we've got the weird news stories at the middle of the show right here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music and sponsor of the River's Edge Radio Network, of the Millvale Music Festival, the River's Edge Radio Network.
Hey, listen up for some sweet pizza discounts. The River's Edge is partnering with Frank's Pizza and Chicken to offer you 10% off your ZA. That's short for pizza.
Seriously? ZA?
What?
Anyway, mention you heard this ad and Frank's will give you 10% off your order of $15 or more.
Oh my god, have you tried their famous buffalo chicken pizza?
Oh, don't even get me started. Can you name all 4 Frank's locations?
Millvale, obviously. Troy Hill, Shaler, and North Hills.
Gold Star. Anyway, support the River's Edge Radio Network by ordering from Frank's Pizza and Chicken the next time you get hungry for some ZA. And don't forget to mention you heard this ad so you get your 10% off. Go to frankspizzachicken.com for more info.
Offer good for a limited time. Order mostly $15 or more before taxes. Cannot be combined with other discounts or offers. Other legal jargon and whatnot.
Speaking of Frank's Pizza, they were selling pizza all day out at Gap Park. It was delicious, and big shout out to Terry Farine, who slid the old festival chair a slice here or there. The committee did an unbelievable job at the music festival. It just cannot be said enough. Every artist who came up to me after the fact or at the event said that the organization was just out of this world. People thought that we had been doing this for 5-6 years, let alone it being our first year. It was just insane. So Mayor Bill Peduto is back in for another term, and he just crushed Darlene Harris. She was slaughtered. She made it, she was in third place. She was nowhere near him. He had the largest winning percentage in, I think, over a decade. Well, it's been a few decades. He just really crushed everyone. And I wonder why he won. And I've said before, I was not a big fan of the way he handled the water crisis here in Pittsburgh when it came out in the media that we had more lead than Flint, Michigan, and he did nothing. But as soon as something went wrong at Highland Park and people were on a burn notice, then all of a sudden he's the champion of clean water in Pittsburgh and ruling out all of these filtration devices. By the way, Chelsea Wagner is looking to investigate the way that the city is handling replacing these lead pipes, saying that the way they are doing it is actually going to cause more problems than it's going to help. But he ran on a campaign on that. If you looked at any of his messages, it was all about clean drinking water, and he really pimped that filtration device. I don't know. Did he win because of opportunism? Did he win because he's really good at marketing himself? Because he is. He appears on every radio show, every TV show, every podcast in Pittsburgh, except for this one. I'd like to have him come down to this podcast, but I doubt that's going to happen. At least Darlene Harris stood up for automobile drivers. She was the underdog. She was fighting the man, and unfortunately the man crushed her beneath his boot. So I don't want to get the new mayor elect in any trouble, but why do you think Bill Peduto won?
I think you're spot on with the marketing and just opportunism, really. I mean, that's what it comes down to a lot of times, and I do think he has everyone's interest at heart. And I think people responded to that, really.
I don't know. I don't think he has everyone's interest in heart. He put a bike lane next to the convention center as a prop for people coming into town when people are getting run over every day in Oakland.
That's true.
I think
I'm not in Pittsburgh enough to
see that
the everyday.
Well, my thing is, I just think I don't think he's the worst mayor at all. In fact, there's a lot of things he does that I think are great, but an opportunist at fault. I mean, he is such an opportunist. That entire bike lane, I remember whenever they put it in, there was this big media buzz about how they were putting it in right before a bike conference, and then when people started bitching about it later on, he said, "Oh, it had nothing to do with that. We did studies." And it's just, come on, dude. And that's my thing. You know, when Dan Rooney passed away, all of a sudden he comes out with a Rooney Rule for the city. It's like, well, if racism in hiring was a problem in Pittsburgh, why did it take some old man dying to bring it to the forefront? It's just so much opportunism. It drives me nuts. My gal, she didn't make it. She got crushed by the man, crushed by the bike lobby. But that's all right. I will keep fighting the good fight.
Good. That's what we all need to do.
That's right. This radio program is the voice for automobile drivers across Western Pennsylvania. Make no mistake about that. And I don't think anyone could mistaken that if they've listened to my program at any length at all. So, yes, as I've said, if I am to hit a cyclist and they are driving illegally, not only should they have to pay for my medical expenses, or if I get any medical expenses, I probably wouldn't if I'm in a car.
Probably
they should
not.
have to pay for the damage to my vehicle. They should have to pay medical expenses for mental anguish, and they should have to shine my shoe for forcing my toe to touch the earth. That is the criteria in which I stand. So that's the election results. I wasn't surprised. I expected Peduto to win in a big way. I don't know if you know this, he is the most traveled mayor.
I did not.
Yeah, he's traveled and spent more taxpayer money to fly to conferences all across the world than any other mayor in Pittsburgh. So take that for what it is. I guess you can't look up legalization or decriminalization of weed online. You have to go to Denver to study it firsthand. I guess maybe the Google website isn't working in City Hall. I don't know. I guess you have to, you can't just Google bike lanes. You have to go to Europe and spend this huge expense to fly with all of your committee people and everything to study bike lanes in Europe, because you can't just, I don't know, go to Google Earth, look at the bike lanes from the luxury of your own computer. I mean, I do that all the time. I like to look at cities all across the world and go on Google. So, I don't know. Disappointed, but we will move on. We will carry on. So, up next, right after this break, this will be the last break of the day, because we've got Matt here, and he's going to talk to us about his election win, big election win. A young guy took down an old guy out of Monessen. He's trying to make things great there, and he is going to tell us his story a little bit later. But up next, we have 3 stories, and there's a reason why we're going to give you these 3 stories. We're changing things up a bit. We have the grab, we have the proactive poop protest, and we have forceful porn. That's up next after the break here on The River's Edge.
Would you be interested in developing conscious choice? Would you be interested in creating reactions rather than waiting for one to come? Would you be interested in combining serendipity and synchronicity? Would you be interested in making 1 + 1 = 3? Would you be interested in finding out about full impact mindfulness? If so, I challenge you to join myself, Jim Ellermeyer, a cognitive behavioral health therapist, every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. on the River's Edge, where we will challenge you to allow us to help you help yourself to fully participate in your life. Let the adventure begin.
I am this city's #1 weapon against the menace that has been terrorizing Pittsburgh for years. Many of you do not know this, but I have put myself in personal harm and at personal risk for many years. Back when I did college radio, back down at California University, where Matt, actually, you're a graduate down there was a beast that was formed from the pollution in the river of the Monongahela that ravaged the borough of California for years. I defeated the creature. I forced it out. I kept it at bay for many years, and I finally kicked it out. Well, now it seeks vengeance. This creature, with its hatred of the Allegheny River, has left the Mon and has come upstream and is threatening the borough of Millvale as we speak. I am this borough and this city's only defense against this vile creature known as the Mon Monster. What I have learned is that this creature can be at least held back temporarily. I don't know if it's possible to defeat it, but you can hold it back temporarily. It's this awful beast that just destroys the town. If you remember those old floods that we had, the big flood in Millvale, the floods in Pittsburgh, people think that was a natural disaster. Mistaken. That was an assault. Last year, when the Gateway Clipper hit a bridge, everybody said that was an accident. That wasn't an accident. That was an attack. It's time that this city, in this borough, in all of the communities along the rivers of Pittsburgh, can sleep a night of relief. So I have come to save the day. The Mon Monster can be subdued with not one, not two, but 3 weird stories. 3 weird stories that will keep the Mon Monster at bay. We have the Grab, the Provocative Poop Protest, and the Forceful Porn. Number 1, the Grab. Have you ever just wanted to get somebody out of the way? Out of the way. And you're trying to get them out of the way, and they will not move. And you don't know how to fully express the fact that you want to get that person out of your way. Well, one BBC reporter sent a message and got a quick thrill along the way. There was a woman who wanted to talk to him, and he went to push her away and cupped her boob as he pushed her out of the way. He says it's unintentional in a tweet. But if you watch the video at the Huffington Post, I mean, his hand is like in a cup as he's pushing her away. Like, I don't... Maybe it was unintentional, but it didn't look that way to me. That is one weird-ass story. The Provocative Poop Protest. So, there was a man, he's in Alaska, and he has a boat, and apparently he was being fined on his boat because he wasn't managing poop removal correctly. He claims that he was targeted because he used to own a strip club. And he says that they are targeting his boat and coming up with these charges against him simply because he used to own a strip club and they're morally attacking him. So they're coming up with false claims and false charges because he used to own a strip club. So what does he do? He hires strippers to dance on the boat every night. And I know what you're thinking. It's weird that that this whole thing is going on, that there's a poop issue on this boat, that he wouldn't fix the poop issue if there is a poop issue and he's just letting poop. But then again, that's not that weird, right? I mean, we have Alcosan. It overflows into the rivers every time it rains. But I digress. You might think that's weird. You might think that it's weird that there are strippers stripping on a boat. None of that, to me, is nearly as weird as the fact that a woman would strip outside in Alaska. That, to me, is bizarre. Story 3, the Forceful Porn. So, there was a porn video that just couldn't be stopped. There were families and people and all sorts of people in a train station during rush hour in Washington, D.C., and all of a sudden, on the big screen TVs, people were getting it on. Reporters were grabbing women's boobs, and strippers were dancing on boats. All of this was going on the TV at a train station during rush hour in Washington, D.C. Those are your 3 weird stories. Hopefully we have entertained the beast in the river. And actually, I have proof that that beast exists. If you look down at the Riverview Park here in Millvale, right down the street from Grant Avenue, which is not far from this studio, they have a map, and you can actually see what I believe is an image of that river monster, the Mon monster, leaving the Mon and coming up to attack the citizens of Millvale right there on that picture. You can see it right on the map. There's a picture of a river creature. I don't know if that's exactly the Mon monster, though, because no one's actually seen the creature. Some claim to have, but I don't know. No hard evidence. So we've got Tara here behind the board. We've got Matt here as well. What are your guys' thoughts on the weird news stories of today?
Pretty weird.
Pretty weird.
Yeah.
What do you? I mean, what's that? Oh, you're there. Yeah. So Tara.
Yeah.
Have you seen the picture of the man pushing the woman out of the way?
No.
No. I mean, it just seemed really weird. Like, I don't know, like
A guy grabbing a boob.
not a guy grabbing a boob, but like, how do you, like, the way he pushed her, where it was like with the hand, like in a cup, like aiming right at her chest as he's pushing her out of the way.
Uh-huh.
It just, to me, seems like that's a hard mistake to make.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Men make it all the time.
Yep. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yes, it does happen. It's a sad thing, though. It shouldn't happen all the
Right.
time. So you think he was? You don't think it was an accident? You think he was?
Well, I didn't see the picture of it.
You didn't see the picture of it.
But I believe you that it sounds very suspicious.
Yeah, it seems weird. The poop.
And I bet he thought about it afterwards.
I'm sure he did, because he probably could have gotten fired for that if he didn't immediately come out with that tweet and
Right.
and everything else. So the poop crisis. What is the weirdest thing about the poop crisis? The fact that poop is flooding into the waters in Alaska, the fact that there are strippers dancing on a boat, or the fact that strippers are dancing outside in the Alaskan weather.
I don't think any of that's weird.
I don't think any of
I
that's
think
weird.
I think that's all been happening for tens of thousands of years.
Outside in the cold
yeah.
Arctic weathers of
Or,
Alaska.
yeah.
Oh, and by the way,
definitely.
people who are watching the video, I didn't realize you're on screen. We have Max here who's interning with us. He's sitting in the background in case you're wondering why there's an extra person. If you're watching the video, sitting here. So you don't think that's weird? I think it's weird. I think it's weird that strippers are dancing on a poop flowing
Poop boat.
boat. Yeah, poop
Yeah.
boat.
That is pretty weird.
So we have the Good Ship Lollipop here in Pittsburgh. They've got the, I don't know, the
Is that a strip boat?
the Good Ship. No, the Good Ship Lollipop is a family boat. Oh, you've got a dirty mind.
No, that made sense.
Yeah, no, it's part of the Gateway Clipper fleet. That is a reputable company here in Pittsburgh, Tara.
You have different kinds of media for different kinds of people.
This is true. So no, the Good Ship Lollipop, it's like a tour boat. People take their kids. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice little boat. But you've got the Good Ship Lollipop here in Pittsburgh. In Alaska, I guess, what do you have, like the Mudslide
What?
Express? I don't know.
That's how you get
The
down the
brown
hill.
the Brownstain
Oh.
the Brownstain
Poop
Ferry.
jokes.
I don't know. So we've got that story. And then the last story as well, we have the porno TV. I feel like that was probably just some employee trying to do Netflix on their phone, sitting in the back room, and maybe they clicked the cast button on their Google Chrome, and now all of a sudden everybody in DC is watching porn. But at least,
It's good for you.
well, not only that, it will shorten the wait in line. It's kind of like when you go to Disney World versus like Kennywood, and I love Kennywood, but you're waiting in line. Whereas Disney World, you've got like videos to watch and things moving around. It's I feel like your wait on the transit would be a much faster experience, because time is relative, if you had something like strippers dancing on a poop spraying boat in Alaska on the TV.
Poop spring boat.
I mean, I can imagine it just like spraying. Can you imagine like that could be a thing? That could be like a weapon. Maybe that's what we could use to fight
Against
off
the
the
North
beast.
Koreans. Oh yeah, the
Oh
beast.
yeah, the North Koreans too. Yeah, or the beast in the river.
Cover
But
him
then
in
again,
shit.
he's swimming up the Allegheny, so he's probably used to that. No, I love the Allegheny. It's actually a beautiful river, but it is true though
There's
that
shit in all of them though.
yeah, and it is true
Can't
that
get around
poop
that.
overflows into the river whenever it rains. So that's why like I kayak in the rivers all the time. I love it, but I do not kayak in the rivers after it
Where do you
rains.
think birds poop?
Well,
And,
yeah,
no,
that's
actually,
the-
I meant fish.
Actually, the birds poop in your drinking water too, because at Highland Park they have an open air reservoir and all the boats jump.
You
all
know,
the
people
fish
are
jump in there.
swimming in there.
But
and-
no, people aren't swimming.
yeah,
in there.
they are
You think?
definitely. I know people who have swum in there.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's interesting. See, you know some more exciting people than I do. So I don't know. I do know that birds do swim in there though, but they do have that chlorinated system, and now they have a brand new chlorinated system, I believe, or they're working on it. And if anything, you got the filtration system coming in from Mayor Bill Patuta. So there you go. Which I'm in favor of. I just think you should
The
have did it.
household filtration?
Yeah. I'm in favor of that household filtration. I just think it should have happened when we found out that we had more lead in our
Yeah,
waters
dude.
than Flint, Michigan, not when people had to.
But this is
to
what
turn off the
happened,
pipes
like,
for
when
a week.
there used to be lead in gasoline, you know, and, like, we didn't really move very fast on that either.
Well, the thing is he didn't move on it when it was, when it turned out that, children could have
Yeah, we know lead is
debilitating
bad, and we've known
diseases.
that for a long time.
Yeah, but then we also didn't know that we had more lead than Flint, Michigan, and then we found that out and nothing happened. But then people had to.
But why wouldn't people, like, isn't that an obvious thing to check
I
out?
didn't. With
Like, they
probably
know
a-
that the pipes are made of lead, and, like,
Sure.
that it's old as fuck here in Pittsburgh.
My thing is when you find out that news and you know for sure that your people are drinking poison, you should have come out with the filtration devices then, not
Yep.
not a month or two later whenever the chlorine system wasn't working and people
Mm-hmm.
were mad because they had to boil water. So that's just my opinion. I don't know.
didn't boil
One man's
any water.
opinion.
You can't boil. Yeah, okay.
That
can't
was
boil
they,
away
they
lead.
were under a boil. I know, but they were under
You
a
just
boil
concentrate
notice.
it.
Yeah.
Yum.
So, all right. So we've got Matt Shorraw here in studio, and he has just won the primary. I was almost said the general election because you basically won the general election as well. But he won a primary election in Monessen, and you will be the next mayor of Monessen unless some crazy person runs this insane write-in campaign and somehow knocks you off. But I mean, that's almost impossible because now he heeded my advice. So Matt wanted to run, and I told you, I said, did you go to the Republicans and ask them? So I said, ask the Republicans to write your name in, and he's like, why? I'm a Democrat. I said, because if you get enough Republicans to write your name in, then you will appear on both ballots. So anybody who writes, so like say even if you lost the election, which you didn't, you won, you still could have been on the ballot. But this way, you're on both ballots, and anybody who does straight party, you automatically get their votes now.
Right.
Which is cool.
So it was obviously a surprise to me last night. I didn't even know about the write-ins until I talked to one of the local newspapers, and they were like, like unofficially, you got enough write-ins to be on the other ticket too. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, because we had limited information from the tickets that we had. So not all the absentee ballots are in, of course.
Sure.
And the write-ins weren't all in at that point. So
Well, the most accurate way to do it is to actually go to each polling location
that's what
and
we did.
read
Yeah.
the lists. So you won, and you're how old are you? Matt?
26.
26. How old was your opponent?
79.
79.
Yeah.
Wow. So what made the difference?
I think
Because a lot of people say it's impossible to beat somebody who's been in there forever because everybody knows them and they're just used to voting for them.
so on one hand, Monessen doesn't give people a long shot. If they mess up, they're gonna let you know about it, which is good. So he was only in for one term, and I think that a lot of people were willing to take the chance on my age. It's something different. So some older person came up to me and said, well, the old people haven't gotten it right, so let's give you a chance. So it's really, really humbling. It really is.
What was your message when you ran as a young person to appeal to an older population? Because there is an older population in Monessen,
Yeah.
is that correct?
There is.
Okay.
So I had multiple points, and so one of the things is to appeal to the older people, and it's definitely necessary. There needs to be more programming opportunities for them because a lot of them are disconnected from the senior center and other things.
Is it because
the
they
city.
can't make it there? Is it a
Mostly,
transportation
yeah.
issue?
And then youth engagement and connecting the kids to the community, because I think that directly ties into Monessen's drug problem. And we're not doing our part to connect the kids to the community. So that's something that I really hit hard on. And neighborhood stabilization, Monessen has blight like every other community does. So trying to find creative ways to tackle blight, save the buildings and the houses that can be saved, get rid of the ones that can, and really try to encourage new development. And I think one of the most immediate things that I want to do, that I can do before even elected, is fixing Monessen's image.
You've already started that, right?
Yeah,
Before you ran for mayor.
I've been trying so hard because Monessen's not as bad as everyone thinks it is. We have our problems.
Beautiful park.
Just like everyone else.
You have a beautiful park there as well in Monessen.
We have, I think, 5 parks, actually.
Well, the one that I've been to is beautiful. That's the one with the tank. They have a giant, full-size tank in their park, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So we really have a lot of things going for us, and I think that I'd love to see more working more with Pittsburgh and really trying to connect Pittsburgh to the Mon Valley.
So how did you feel when Allegheny County, when Rich Fitzgerald from Allegheny County and the executive, the director, and Bill Peduto tried to stop the Mon-Fayette Expressway from connecting to the Parkway East?
I just really don't know enough about the whole situation, and I know that whole project has been like a long time coming. I don't know how much it would actually impact.
I think it would make a huge impact.
I think it would impact it, but I'm not sure how much. There are so many alternative routes around it.
Not really, though, because, I'll be honest, I won't go to the Mon Valley living here because it's so inconvenient.
Really?
But if they extended that expressway, I would easily take that into the Mon Valley because it's so inconvenient to go down 51.
It is.
I would rather, like, put pins through my face and, I don't know, strip on a boat in Alaska than drive down 51. And there's some nice communities down there. There's some nice stores, but it is just such a poor road to drive down with a million stoplights and everything else. And the other alternative is to go down 79 and then 70, and that's way out of your way if you're trying to get to Monessen.
Well, 70's right by Monessen, but 79 is slightly out of the way.
But from here, you have to go 79 to get to 70 unless you want to go down 51.
The problem that I have with it, and again, I don't know that much about it, is that the issues that it will cause for the communities in the way of it, because I'm afraid that communities like I'm trying to think of some of the communities off the top of my head.
Yeah, Braddock, I know they bitched, but you know what? That's going to create an access for people to come and see your community as well, because not only are people from the city going to go down to Monessen, but people from Monessen could come into the city and come to places like Braddock.
That's the good point. Some of them, though, don't even get exits. So my concern for those communities would be, for them to become pass-throughs, and that wouldn't be a good thing either. That wouldn't be fair to them. So I think it needs to happen somehow, but I think that
evident domain. If Walmart can do it, so can we.
I think that everyone needs to kind of sit down at a table together and say, like, okay, how can we make this work for everyone, instead of forcing it through, But Monessen's really lucky. We're right next to 70. We're not that far from 79, and we're by 43, and we have State Route 906 through us. And
how do you bring people in? Because that's something that I always wonder. I know Irwin's done a great job with that. You do a great job with some of the concerts and things at the park. Is that how you bring people in? Because it's easy for like a Lincoln Highway community,
right,
where the main road literally drives through your business district. But if you're off the main drag, sometimes it's hard to get people to make that extra turn just to go in and see your businesses. Even though it's not that inconvenient, people, when anybody does it, I'm guilty of it too. You put on the tunnel vision and you just drive.
Yeah. So it is tricky because Monessen is pretty big. Land-wise, it's laid out it's very sprawling, and it's a challenge, and it's also an image thing. Some people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to Monessen. It's scary. It's really not.
People still tell me that about East Liberty, and it's people who've haven't been to East Liberty in 10 years.
Like, don't get me wrong, we have our problems.
Everybody does, yeah.
But it's not that scary, and I'm trying to do whatever I can to get people to know that and invite people to come check out Monessen and just drive through it. It's a pretty diverse community. I'm really proud of it.
Now, you ran with a very positive message, and your opponent kind of had a negative message. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you think that was one of the differences in the campaign?
I think so.
Because negative marketing usually works in politics.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think everyone was just kind of burnt out by it. And I don't know if maybe the presidential election had something to do with it too, with just so much negativity and people really being burnt out by that negativity. By nature, I'm a pretty optimistic
Yes.
person.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
do know
help
that.
it.
Mhm.
Like, my friends sometimes hate it, but I think that definitely helped. And I think that people were willing to give me a chance because of the work that I've done in the past in the community. And something someone said really struck me hard. I didn't leave when I had the chance to leave. Because, a lot of my classmates left. They moved to the city or they moved to other states. And, they said, well, you stayed here. So, and I plan on staying in Monessen for the long haul. So.
Now, you're 26. And I know when I ran, I was 22 or 23 when I ran for office. And I experienced some age discrimination. And people always refer to age discrimination as discriminating against older people. But really, in a professional world, it could be the opposite.
Yeah.
And in a campaign world where people will look at someone who's younger and say that they haven't lived enough. And they'll judge their experiences simply by a number versus actually reading up on the person and seeing what they've done. Did you experience some of that when you ran?
Oh yeah, definitely.
How did you handle it?
I had to shrug most of it off. I really did. My opponent called me that kid. So
Did you say that old bastard in return?
I did not. Because it all comes down to having a conversation with someone and seeing where they're coming from and knowing what they've done. And I know a lot of older people that have done a ton of stuff in their life. I know a lot of older people that haven't really done anything. And the same goes for younger people on both sides. So the age factor is not it at all. But I think that my age helped me in this instance.
I think sometimes it can. I know when I ran, it was funny. I think I was either 22 or 23. I can't remember how old I was, but I ran with a message that see, I'm 30. I'm already turned 30. You start losing your mind. No, but
Not there yet.
no. Hopefully, I'm not losing my mind yet. But then again, I'm here, so I probably already have lost my mind. But when I ran on a message that council needed to grow up. I didn't run for mayor, but I ran for council. And that was my message. Council needs to grow up, and I think people were receptive to that. It was kind of funny though. It's 20-some-year-old person saying that, but it was true.
I keep telling people too. Monessen, like Pittsburgh, it lost its industry, and we still haven't really found our niche. And I think that I keep telling people Monessen needs to figure out what it wants to be when it grows up, basically, and no one can seem to come together at the same table and try to.
How do you figure that out?
Well,
because it is difficult, isn't it?
It
I
is.
mean,
It
Pittsburgh
is.
has a lot more resources than Monessen to draw
Right.
on to
Right.
become a tech center or a medical center, things like that. What does Monessen have to draw on to bring in an industry? What kind of industry do you think would thrive in Monessen?
Well, so personally, I think that we could do smaller satellite things that relate to the tech industry because I think that's the new steel. And I think that it would be sustainable. It would bring sustainable jobs to the area. We have a lot of industrial land. We have the river, and we have cheap real estate. I mean, you can get a house for like $5,000, and I mean, you'll need to work on it, but still, that's pretty decent if you're willing to put in the work and give it a chance. So. We're not that far away from Pittsburgh either. I mean, if you're brave enough to travel down 51.
And if you get that Montfayette Expressway, I mean,
yeah.
people can really travel.
I drove 51 this morning, hit every red light, but
Hold on, he deserves a round of applause for that one. That is the worst road in Western
It is.
Pennsylvania. It's not even close. The only one that it doesn't even rival it, but I would say second place is Route 30 through North Huntington.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
But I enjoy coming down to the city, and I really think that Pittsburgh and Monessen can do a lot of work together. I really do. Because we have regional issues that both cities share. I mean, Pittsburgh has blight. They're better at hiding it than Monessen is, but they have blight. And, we have the regional opioid issue. And, there are so many issues like those that I think all of our communities need to sit down and say, okay, what are we doing collectively to solve this?
How do you plan to work with the governor's office to try to tackle the opioid addiction. I mean, he's really come out and made that a priority in his administration, tackling this issue, and it's something I've applauded him for.
I know that I haven't spoken with the governor.
Well, you haven't been elected yet, so yeah.
But I know that we're in Westmoreland County, and our county commissioners are really pushing that issue hard too. So I'm looking forward to working with the county commissioners on that. And there are a lot of organizations in the region, and in Monessen there are a few too, that focus on, addiction, substance abuse, youth engagement to avoid those issues. So I think if we all pull together, we can really make something happen.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what you do. I think it's going to be an interesting term. How long is your term? 4 years?
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years. So.
It's definitely been an adventure already. So.
Do you think you'll have any struggles as a young guy being mayor, dealing with all the old coots on council?
I'm not sure. But I look at it this way: we're all there because we care to some extent, and we all just need to sit down and be like, no matter how we feel about each other.
Well, you've worked with some of them before, right? In your involvement with the parks and concert series and things like that.
I think it's gonna go well. I think that if it plays out like I think it's going to, then I think that we'll have a nice array of council members, and I think we'll actually balance each other out. So.
And I will say, I wrote in all of the old coots here in Millvale. No, we have awesome council members here in Millvale.
Yeah,
so,
you guys.
So
are
sometimes
doing some
the
cool
older
things
people.
down here.
I mean, we've got some of our council members. The ages range, but oh my goodness, they are so open-minded here in Millvale. It's fantastic, and
that's what it takes. You can throw out all kind of crazy ideas, and they might not work. But you at least have to talk about them and bounce ideas off, because you might come up with something out of the blue that might actually work.
Oh yeah, well that's like we were talking about the unbelievable, astronomical success of the Millvale Music Festival this past Saturday, and that wouldn't have been possible if council didn't give us the go ahead, and they helped us out with resources and things like that. So
and that's great marketing for communities. Those kinds of events.
Yeah,
great marketing.
Oh yeah, I mean it brought in so many people into this town who had never been here before. And I just remember riding my bike, and maybe this is something, I think that, I think Monessen, with you at the helm, just knowing you, having talked with you in the past about different projects you've worked on, I think Monessen could become the cultural center of the Mon Valley.
Yeah.
And I think, that's what Irwin's really done, and at least it's part of North Huntington. That's what Millvale's becoming here. And I remember just during the festival riding my bike back and forth, probably delivering cables or something to a venue, hearing somebody talk about the video store here in Millvale and just saying, oh, look at that. That's so cool. They got a video store. So people who've never been here were recognizing our businesses.
Right.
In fact, actually, one of the volunteers had mentioned that they lived here and were finding businesses that they had never found before because they just never walked that part of town because they had a car and they drove off to where they needed to go. And, a lot of people do that. I'm guilty of having not been through all of the residential areas here in Millvale.
We all are, and like you said, we go in tunnel vision, we're worried about getting somewhere or, just making it through the day, and you kind of forget. And then people that live in their communities for a long time, you get so used to your surroundings that you kind of forget what's around you.
Well, I remember I used to work at Westmoreland Mall. That was my first job at Sears there. And I would drive there every day for, I think I worked there for 2 years, and then I worked there like occasionally after that. But I was driving a friend there, and she said, hey, look at that, I think it was a golf place or something. And I said, you know what, I never knew that was there. Apparently it had been there for years, like my entire time working at that mall. Drove past it every day, never knew it.
When we started the Monessen Amphitheater, started planning events at City Park, people had the same thing where they're like, we didn't know this was here. Yeah. We thought this was part of Ross Straver, not Monessen. So, yeah.
Very cool. Matt Shorraw, he is going to be the next mayor of Millvale. Not Millvale. No, Brian Smalls will be the next mayor of Millvale. That's, well, at least I'm pretty sure he won the write-in vote, so he'll probably be in the same position as you here in Millvale. But the next mayor of Monessen, you can go to Monessen, roll the dice, drive down 51, check the town out. It is a nice town.
Google us, check out what's going on there. You'll be surprised, I think.
Absolutely. So we're going to end the show with Sage-Like Wisdom from Pittsburgh's Moral Compass. So, no, that's good. That's what I want. We have the Zen music. I just want to take it in for a minute. I think today's lesson is always remember that people live stressful lives. People are on the run. People are busy. And people are anxious, and they don't have time to wait. So, when faced in a perilous situation, throw porn on the big screen TV, and everyone will chillax. I'm Brian Crawford. This has been another edition of The River's Edge. I'll be back Monday. We're going to be switching things up. From now on, I will be on every Monday going forward, just on Mondays. And then we're going to play clips from the show throughout the week. We'll also have special interviews and special appearances on the Facebook Live throughout the week, at different weeks when things arise. But Mondays now, we're back in action. The music festival is behind me. I have finally slept for a few hours, and I'm back. I'm ready to go. Local music up next here on Pittsburgh's voice for local music, riversedgepgh.com.